barn. I was so scared to look inside, but I had to.
What did you see, Clarice? What did you see? Was it the beagles?
They were screaming.
They were slaughtering these beagles. That set you off. Did you run away, Clarice?
No. First I tried to free them. I opened the gate to their pen, but they wouldn't run. They just stood there, confused. They wouldn't run.
And who else was there, Clarice? Was there a doctor that looked like the troll from Labyrinth?
Yes.
It was Fauci, wasn't it, Clarice? What did you do? Did you try to take one of his beagles? I bet he didn't like that, did he? Did he try to stop you, Clarice? Did he stop you with his cold, clammy hands?
It was very cold. Very cold.
And what was the plan, Clarice? There were many beagles. Did you hope to carry them all?
I thought if I could save just one, but...
But then that little troll, Fauci, jumped on your back, didn't he, Clarice?
He was so heavy.
Yes, heavy.
He was so heavy.
He's a surprisingly heavy doctor, Clarice.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and I just want to share my opinion before we get into some of these absolutely amazing clips. It is my opinion that Dr. Anthony is one of the most evil people alive. It's just my opinion. His existence, him walking around free right now, makes me have faith that there is in fact an afterlife in which there will be debts paid by the many number of lies that he told, in my opinion, the many number of wild things that have been revealed today. I hope that he never finds peace, period. Exclamation point, make no mistake about it. Now, earlier today, and well, throughout today, this loser, degenerate piece of trash has been testifying. Of course, you know, our own government won't hold him accountable for anything. Meanwhile, you know, Trump gets charged with essentially a bookkeeping error. Some of the biggest bombshells from this has been interesting. You see, you know, just looking at some of the comments, finally some pushback. MTG is a little rough around the edges, but she knows how to fight. The rest of the GOP, for the most part, are anti-Trump rhinos with very few exceptions. Remember all the things, all the reasons why people were getting banned? All the reasons that people were getting unpersoned. They didn't want you to go visit your grandparents or your parents in the hospital. You couldn't go to funerals. You couldn't go to your children's graduation. You couldn't go to church. You couldn't go to the gym. You couldn't go to local restaurants because they were all shut down. Meanwhile, the elites like Gavin Newsom and Nancy Pelosi carried on their life as if nothing was happening. They disobeyed their own mask orders and were caught multiple times. People like Chris Cuomo got on the news every night, told you to wear one, told you that people were taking horse paste, served no prison time, was never brought up on charges for passing what we now know were complete falsehoods on the American people, while they kept a death count live updated on the right-hand side of the screen to keep Americans afraid and glued to the television. You could see, obviously, Fauci now denying ever seeking to suppress any type of origin theories, which many people do not believe is the truth. You see him grilled by GOP over the response, and then he cries that people were mean to him. Interestingly, here you see he admits wrongdoings of his former top advisor. Let's look at some of these clips. This clip set by Libby Emmons of Post Millennial. They knew the jab waned in efficacy and kept firing people for not taking it anyway, Fauci admits.
The vaccine saved millions of lives, and I want to thank you for your support and engagement on that. However, despite statements to the contrary, it did not stop transmission of the virus.
Yeah.
Did the COVID vaccine stop transmission of the virus?
That is a complicated issue because in the beginning, the first iteration of the vaccines did have an effect, not 100%, not a high effect. They did prevent infection and subsequently, obviously, transmission. However, it's important to point out something that we did not know early on that became evident as the months went by is that the durability of protection against infection and hence transmission was relatively limited, whereas the duration of protection against severe disease, hospitalization, and deaths was more prolonged.
So essentially what he's saying is it didn't really work very good. And we knew it didn't work very good. And we still got on TV every day and told you to do
We
it.
did not know that in the beginning. In the beginning,
And by the way, I actually believe that some of these people, you know, genuinely didn't know, right? They genuinely were making their best effort guess because they were afraid and they were trying to do the right thing. I'm sure there are some people that are like that. But the problem is it was never presented as that, was it? It was presented as biblical truth, absolute truth, unquestionable truth. You couldn't talk about it on social media. You couldn't talk about it on YouTube. Couldn't talk about it in public without getting, you know, people losing their minds. Now, just a few years later, well, it didn't really stop it. And well, it wasn't very effective even in the beginning, but well.
it was felt that in fact it did prevent infection and thus transmission, but that was proven as time went by to not be a durable effect.
Oh, okay. So it didn't work. Now, of course, then he says, don't listen to podcasts. You want to listen to the science. You know, the guy who's up there that's like, well, I don't know. I was busy having beagles, you know, removing beagles' vocal cords so we didn't have to hear them cry out in pain as sandflies ate their face. Yes, that's something that Fauci was, you know, linked to, by the way. He then blames people who are unjabbed. Listen to this guy.
I think the American public should listen to America's brightest and best doctors and scientists, or instead listen to podcasters, conspiracy theorists, and unhinged Facebook memes.
Unhinged Facebook memes. This loser from California, by the way, delivered that question as if he wasn't just ball washing.
No, listening to people who you've just described is going to do nothing but harm people
They're talking about Joe Rogan.
because they will deprive themselves of life-saving interventions, which has happened. And you know, some have done studies. Peter Hotez has done an analysis of this and shows that in people who refuse to get vaccinated for any variety of reasons, probably responsible for an additional 200,000 to 300,000 deaths in this.
Prove that. Can't prove it. He said probably. He said probably.
Country.
Thank you, sir, and your entire team for saving lives in this country.
Ball washing. Probably. You see, Glenn Greenwald, this exchange alone proves what a pathological liar he is. 1 week after receiving emails from top epidemiologists arguing that the jab was, or that the coof was likely a lab leak, Dr. Anthony caused a virtual ban on questioning its origin. But he's a liberal folk hero, so only GOP can raise this. You can see Representative Jim Jordan.
Do you agree that there was a push to downplay the lab leak theory?
Everybody knows there was. People were getting banned from YouTube for saying it. People were getting banned from Facebook, Instagram, anywhere, social media, early on Twitter. You were getting banned for that. Doctors were getting banned for that.
Not on my part.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
I think most of the country would find that amazing. I still got 11 seconds.
Well, look at the facts.
You
I kept
winked
an
at-
open mind throughout the entire process.
All right, I yield back.
I don't think he did. And then one of the biggest whoppers, now he says, well, I didn't come up with the social distancing nonsense. You know, that the dots on the floor that they put in every supermarket and that they told everyone just to stay away. Then you had cops out on the beaches measuring the distances between people.
It came from the CDC. The CDC was responsible for those kinds of guidelines for schools, not me. So when I said that it just appeared, it appeared. Was there any science behind it? What I meant by no science behind it is that there wasn't a controlled trial that said compare 6 foot with 3 feet with 10 feet. So there wasn't that scientific evaluation of it. What I believe the CDC used for their reason to say 6 feet is that studies years ago showed that when you're dealing with droplets, which at the time...
Any idiot knows that, right? Don't be standing around sick people, right? But that became like the law. Weirdo Karens were like, well, yeah, I'm 6 feet. Got to be 6 feet apart. Got to be 6 feet apart. Everybody stands 6 feet apart. Everyone in school, 6 feet, 6 feet.
Time that the CDC...
So now he blames the CDC. You see, Dr. Anthony says Republicans twisted his words when the 6 feet apart came and it lacked scientific basis and just appeared. He still made it up. He still made it up. He contradicts himself every other sentence. He's a prolific liar. I mean, you have people in band wear these things in bands so they could play instruments. Then why did he push it? Like, it was the thing to do. They wanted to control us, no question. You see, Zero Hedge, we very much hope this Dr. Anthony will discuss this email referencing it as a bioweapon. Pretty interesting email. I mean, this is absolutely wild. The level of blame gaming, the level of, insane ball washing from Democrats. I believe that there were probably people who were genuinely, trying to do good. You just see Marjorie Taylor Greene calls for the imprisonment of Mr. Anthony to his face as she cites new reports where NIH scientists made over $700 million on COOF royalties. NIH scientists made $710 million in royalties from drug makers, a fact that's been hidden. It's right. Is it here? Here's it.
But you also told the American people they had to distance by 6 feet. They had to wear masks. But let's also talk a little bit further about the type of science that you represent. NIH scientists made $710 million in royalties from drug makers, a fact that's been hidden. Let's talk about the fact about...
Interesting, huh?
Is it right for scientists and doctors getting paid by the American people, government taxpayer paychecks, to get patents where they're paid millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in royalty fees, especially when the NIH and these government agencies, most powerful agencies in our country, are recommending medical suggestions and advice and making up guidelines like 6 feet distancing and masking of children? Do you think that's appropriate? Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor. You're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes. I reclaim my time, Mr. Raskin.
Gentlelady will suspend.
Showing him without wearing his.
It's not deserved to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked, and he belongs in
Gentlelady
prison.
will suspend.
I don't disagree with him. A lot of people, all of Congress should be on trial. I don't disagree with that either. Remember, a lot of our leadership, just so we can point out, a lot of our leadership was happy to enforce this stuff as gospel truth, weren't they? Here in Wisconsin, our governor, Evers, cucklord, right? He was happy to enforce it. He was happy to try to shut down local businesses. He was happy to do all this crap. Not ask his own independent doctors, not look at, it took the Supreme Court in my state, thankfully, to overturn that. You see, there was nothing stopping Congress from hiring their own experts separate from the executive branch to counter Anthony. True. Very true. All I can say is he belongs in prison. Absolutely. I agree. I agree that these people should not have got rich off of it. Will that be the truth? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it and you follow or subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you again real soon.